morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to Random Crafty Acts, or welcome to Random Crafty Acts if you haven't been here before. My name is Barb. This is the result of something that happens at the first of the month that I have followed for a very, very long time. I'm going to show you this. I don't know how well that print shows out because of the lighting, but call me Crafty Al, and I will put a link to her below. On the first of every month, puts out a new sheet load of cards, is what it's called. Probably one of the better things that I've found out there, aside from Just Crafts, who is the other thing I always link that I'm really a strong follower of. So on the first, she does a wonderful video where she shows you what the card is going to look like based on the cards she's done. And then on the second of the month, she walks you through how she does this. And she has a design team that also does they each do videos using the sketch. Okay, so there are two things about this that really sold me. One was, this is the exact size. Let me pull one of the cards I did of an A2 card. Okay, so there's a lot of noise outside because my husband's working right outside the she shed, so I'll just try to talk loud. Okay, so that's one thing that helps. So that kind of gives you an idea of where to place things. And there have been a couple of times when I've been trying to line something up, you can actually do this, and it gives you a better idea of where you need to put things. Okay. The second thing is, she lists out everything you're going to need, including how many cards it's going to make, and what to use how to cut the pieces if you only want to make one, things you might want to be aware of. And then on the back, she actually has a cutting template. Okay. Now, at the time that she releases them each month, this is actually free. Okay. And she uses 6x6, she uses 12x12. Sometimes she does 5x7 cards. A couple of times she's done mini slim lines. Most of the time she does A2 cards. Okay. After this, it's getting to the older ones is a matter of joining her channel and being a channel member. Okay, but all of that information is available if you follow one of the links below and look at how she does it. All right, so as is my practice, I printed that out, and since I'm doing a lot of Christmas cards, I started into this. So this was the first one I did, and I put, because of the way I had cut my paper, because I did it like on the first day, and I wasn't paying any attention to anything she said, and I hadn't seen the one on the second day, so I'd cut my paper kind of different. But anyway, I just put the two pieces here the same, whereas the other way to do it is to cut a piece of 6x6 this way, and then another piece of 6x6 this way. Okay, so that you have pieces you can swap out. All right, and that's doing it that way, working with 4 pieces of 6x6. That's how you get 8 cards with this layout. Okay, the other thing that was going on is I was working with 8.5 by 11 paper, and so I was using these measurements and my poorly developed math skills, and I came up with, I had all kinds of pieces left over, and in different bunches. And while I have 11, counting this one, I have 11 of these, and so my practice is that I do one. Okay, and I see if it looks like it's going to work, and then I put together card kits where I have the pieces, and I put as many of the things together, and then I set these aside. Okay, And if there's some other aspect of it I want to try, like when I was trying to fix it, I found this paper and this paper that look pretty good together. Okay, and so in this case I did two, and I meant to swap them so I would see what that looked like with this particular paper. I also added, this is a 4 by 5 1/4. Is that how I did it? Yeah, 4 by 5 1/4. And then my usual 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 layer in the background. And I used the parchment paper that I get at it's Astra Bright. I used it because it's not quite cream, and you can tell that when you look at the cream up against this. It's almost cream, but not quite. But I thought it looked fine with this. Okay. And so I have a stack of those to put together. And then in this one, if you notice, like I swapped it. I put the print at the outside in here. I also did a red background here with a black outside layer. Okay. And this is pretty thin paper here, so this was not too much layering. And then I pulled some embellishments I had done a couple of years ago in that great big huge box of all kinds of embellishments that I have dragged out in some of these videos, and did this in the middle. Now she used a much larger sentiment, and that I didn't have anything like that, so I didn't worry about that. Okay, but that's also what they refer to as taking one of these sketches and making it your own and working with what you've got. A lot of the people on her design team did something besides Christmas. I mean, I know we're all into Christmas in July, even though it's now August. A lot of people did any other kind of patterns that they had, any kind of paper pads that they had. And they worked really well. So I would encourage you to follow along. There's a playlist. What's really nice is it's one of those you can start it and it will just go from one to the next, and you can watch what everybody did. Okay, so with that said, I ended up with like this. Okay, most of the scraps from the papers I used, I mean, I came down, I had these two pieces and just this, which I have no problem sending these across the Rainbow Bridge, okay? But I did want to do something with these, and so I ended up with two patterns that I tried. This is a pattern I've used before. I used the 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then I laid these strips across here and the black one against here. And looking back, I think normally I would have put a red one here and a red one here, and then the black one here and the black one here. And I would have got a little more symmetry that way. When I got down in here, it gets a little sketchy, but I don't really think anybody's going to notice that. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Okay, so I don't think anybody's really going to notice that. Because when you look at the front of this card, your eye is drawn to the focal point, and that's one of the things to keep in mind when you're kind of playing with designs. Okay, the other one I tried to do was I took that design and tried to kind of work with it, working with some of my scraps. And it's pretty obvious when you get down here that down here in this corner, this got off, and I just kept piling things on top of it, trying to fix it. So what I want to do today is play with this, okay, and see if maybe we can do something with the rest of those, and maybe not. And so this is being very brave on my part, because I don't actually have a plan. So this is one of those videos you may or may not see. Okay, so I've got the red piece that I'm going to put in the back, and I've got a black. Okay, I've got a black after I cut that I can put here. And I've got some additional black scraps in case I need some more over there. Okay, so let's just start with this and kind of look at how we were doing that. So I basically want to use, I've got one big, so it makes sense to kind of sort your scraps into sizes, but okay, so this is a 3 3 3/4 by 5. Okay, so these are, according to what she did, because that's how I started, 3 1/4. So I'm going to cut 2 3 1/4 here. So here's a 3 1/4. I'm going to cut another 3 1/4. And that leaves a little piece that should be about 2 inches, if I remember right. Yes, and that's the size that I need for here. So that's the only one of those I've got. So these are 3/4 of an inch, which was difficult for me to cut on this one because of the way the measurements run. So I did these this way. And this is where I used my Post-it note tip, where you just take a Post-it note and you stick it on there. And that way you've got something to hold here. All right, so that's 3 1/4. That's 3/4, which is a little wide. These are just a scooch over a half. So this is all scrap over here. So there's a half. And we'll just ease that over just a tad. Okay. Okay, we'll see how that helps. All right, let's go for it. The other thing I find when I'm in experimental mode like this is some people like really have to dry fit everything, and I can do that, but there does come a point where you really just need to go for it. Okay, so you put one there, and then you put, make sure I got that one. You put one down here, and that's how she showed to put this pattern together. Okay, and we put one down here, and that edge is just a little bit off, so I'm going to line up with the sides, and I'll probably have to go back in. Okay, so then the next thing she did was she took the other piece and she put the short piece over here. And I didn't measure that out. If you're good at it, you can do that with scissors. I'm not good at it with scissors. I also can't draw a straight line with a ruler, and I can't do anything that resembles math. Okay. All right, so that's how her basic piece started. All right, so then I'm going to look to make sure I've got several of these, and I do. Okay, so then the next thing I did was I basically went around and I laid them right up against here. And the reason I laid them right up against there is that I was working with, this is scrap paper, basically. The white is. Okay. Hope I'm in frame. And yes, I realize I'm cutting with scissors here and hoping that it turns out right. Okay. And then we'll put this piece here. All right. And I don't think we're going to need that, but it looks like I have two of them just in case. All right, so the next thing I did, it looks like, was I went around with a thinner piece of black and I think this piece is going to be long enough to do all four. So we'll use this piece. I'm going to lay that up against here. And I'm basically just alternating the colors. And I'm basically doing this because I have this whole pile of red and black scraps. And when I mass make through something like this, this is one of the things I will typically do. Now, there are times that I, depending on where I'm at in my attempts and process and how I'm feeling and all of that, and I definitely needed one more little scooch of this. Let's see. This will work. Where I'll just take all this and I'd sort it into my regular stack of scraps that I've got. But I'm trying at this point, I'm working on my Christmas donation box. And I'm trying to get to 200 and we're getting very close. I've got 157 done. I've got 21 here. 21, yeah. And then I've got these two. And see, we just stepped over into math, and I don't want to have to stop the video to get out my calculator. But I think when I looked at everything last night, I was up to 180. Which means in the next 2 days, I'll be looking back through my Christmas stacks. Okay, now, this is where you can make a decision, all right? I have a square here. All right, and this is one of the advantages to this particular design, okay? So you could put a square in here, okay? And then put this, and then this is white, so it would be on white, okay? So you could do that. All right, that's one of the things we could do, and that may end up being what we do. Okay, so then the other would be to, you would look back through the red and see what you have. Okay, so this is what I got into last time, and that is not quite right. This, well, that's tight there, not okay here. Which would mean going in and cutting on something like this, and that is not something I like to do. Okay, so this is the closest. Felt like this was one of the two things that kind of went wrong here. All right, so then the other thing I noticed is that this is a little off. Okay, so I can line it up there, and it will just lay over the top of this, which gives it a different look than here. Okay. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. I don't have any other red. Let me just double check. Here, I don't. That really thin piece is not, anything this thin is not something to be honest, that I actually have a tendency to save. Like that is kind of an accident. Okay. Anything I put here is going to get covered up. I think we're going to do the overlay, just because I really want to cover all that white. Okay. And this, okay. Let's go ahead and do this. And there's going to be a slight spot here, and we'll just make sure that that covers over there. And the only thing that's troubling is this little dot right here, which I could probably, I've got some really fine tip black pens up there. I could go in there and ink that in. I probably will not do that though. And the reason being, that's been my experience, how what has been in general a really good plan gets mixed up. Okay, is when I get in and I start futzing just a little bit too much. Okay, notice I pulled that out to turn it around and try it the other way. And that's because it is, except for the really pristine crafters, it is very difficult to get a pair of scissors in there and cut that, and much easier to do this. Okay. All right. So we're going to do this. And with that, we've covered all but this. If I put, that's what we'll do. Notice I'm using my embellishments to cover up my concerns. Let's not call them mistakes. They're not really mistakes. They're just the way something came out. It is August when I'm doing this. We have been under what has been referred to as the heat dome. And today, when we got up, it was 60 degrees outside. And so every person in the neighborhood is mowing. Okay, I think I'm going to pull the cream. The neighborhood is mowing or outside or something, because we have all been hiding in the air conditioning or just, you know. Okay. All right, now, is this perfect? No, it's not, but that's okay. All right, so then this is the next thing that we typically do in this process, okay, is see how this is just like off just a teensy bit, and this is the other place that I have a tendency to mess up. And what I just did works as long as this side is really even, okay? And the same thing has to be for that. So you've got to really check to make sure. All right. And then the same thing here. We're going to shave just a scooch off the top. And we're just like really cleaning up the edges. And you have to make sure that what you're doing is dry when you do this. Okay, because I've done it before, and what will go terribly wrong. Okay, so now look how neat that looks now with all the edges, and you've got this little overlap here, but that's not that big a thing, and I really don't think most people are going to notice. We've got just a little bit of white that shows through right there. Okay. All right, so then this would technically be 4 by 5. Okay, I'm going to go with the red simply because this, I had planned on doing this. Okay, so this is 4, and yet another scrap. 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, this is where I messed up here, is when I put this piece on, I wasn't watching. The bottom wasn't even, which is why I evened this up before I started. And again, this is not a disaster. Okay, all right, so now I've got that lined. You can use, there are grid tools out there you can use that make what I just did a little easier. Okay, now we're gonna lay this inside of here. And that is just a teensy bit. I'm going to have to take a look at my cutter. I'm starting to have trouble with these outside pieces being the size I really want them to be. Okay, and that's too far over, which you can fix if you do it right away. Okay, I'm going to measure this again. That's just under 4. And this is just under 4 1/8. That's what my problem is. Let me try another. And notice that because I'm using wet glue, I was able to pull that off, and we can do this again. People use double-sided tape, and I really admire them. See that slight little bit of difference there. There, I like that a lot better. Nothing wrong with this. I can use it for something else, not what I was trying to use it for. Okay, and then since I used cream here, I'm going to grab one of the parchment by Astro Bright, which I'd probably get on Amazon. I'm going to put this on a card. Okay, wow. All right, so I want to lay these side by side, not to, you know, rub in that this one didn't go quite the way that the one next to it did. But just to kind of give you an idea of some like different ways you can like take a sketch like the one we were working with that did this, okay? And you use more of your scraps. And that is the thing about this month's SheetLoad, is that I think it's probably one of the sketches I've stumbled across recently that is going to go a long way towards helping me deal with scraps. I've got a lot of the red still left. I think this is the only piece of this that I have, but I'm not done making Christmas cards yet. And so the likelihood that I will be revisiting this particular sketch is pretty high. And it's also that I will end up, I will hang on to that sketch and put it in a place where I can find it. Okay. You can also download that and save it as a PDF. In fact, in order to get it to print out right, you pretty much have to do that. Okay, my Random Acts of Kindness studio stamp that my granddaughter got for me. Okay, all right. Last thing, when you have scraps that are pattern paper, you can actually, even on cards that are supposed to be blank on the inside, you can come inside and do something like this. You can do something like this. I usually don't, but it is an option. Okay, all right. Thank you for being here. I'm not going to make another one of these for you because it's, you know, pretty much the same kind of thing. But that gives me 3. I'll be brave. Okay, so I have 3 of those. I have 21 of these. I'm squinting, 157 in the box. So that's 10, 11, 7, 8. That's 181. It's going to be a great day today and tomorrow. All right. Thank you. Come back and see me. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, it would be really helpful if you would do that. My primary goal here is to get videos out there that are simple, that help connect people to other YouTube creators, that can help them. I am really big on promoting donating greeting cards. And there are a lot of sites out there that take them. You will always, when you go to my playlist, when you click on Random Crafty Acts, the name of the channel, and you go to my playlist, you'll find there are lots of places that I'm talking about donating. There are other YouTube creators who talk about donating. So I'm really trying to promote greeting cards as one of the things we do with paper crafting that brings joy to us and joy to those who receives them. So by subscribing, it costs you nothing. I am not monetizing. I am not affiliated with anybody. I'm just trying to spread the word. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye.